"Hey," Zach croaked, his voice weak. "Hey," Ethan replied, his lips twitching into a faint smile. "You really know how to make an impression." Zach chuckled weakly. "Didn't think saving your life would hurt this much." Ethan shook his head, his voice earnest. "Thank you, Zach, for what you did. I was wrong about you." The two shared a quiet understanding. A truce formed in the face of what could have been tragedy. By the time graduation arrived, the three had become an unbreakable trio. Ethan had finally let go of his feelings for Sophie, choosing instead to embrace his role as her brother. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over Eastwood Academy's grand campus. The graduation ceremony had ended hours ago, and the once bustling halls were now quiet, save for a few lingering students taking photos and saying tearful goodbyes. Among them were Sophie, Zach, and Ethan, their lives forever changed by the whirlwind of events over the past year. Sophie stood by the fountain in the center of the school garden, the place where Zach had first noticed her in a different light. She traced the edge of her graduation cap, her heart heavy and light all at once. The past year had been a roller coaster of emotions: love, betrayal, revelations, and forgiveness. And yet, she had emerged stronger, more certain of who she was and where she belonged. Behind her, Zach approached, his green eyes soft and filled with an emotion she now knew well. He wrapped his arms around her waist from behind, pulling her close. Lost in thought again, he teased, his voice low and warm. Sophie smiled, leaning into him. "Just thinking about how far we've come." Zach chuckled, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Yeah, who would have thought the arrogant jerk would end up here, huh?" She turned to face him, her eyes sparkling. "You're still an arrogant jerk sometimes." "Only for you," he said, grinning before leaning in to kiss her. Nearby, Ethan watched them from a distance. His silver-gray eyes were unreadable, but there was a softness to his expression that hadn't been there before. The pain of losing Sophie as more than a friend still lingered, but he had made peace with it. She was happy, and that was all he truly wanted. As Zach and Sophie broke apart, Ethan approached them. Sophie turned, her smile faltering as she met his gaze. There was still so much left unsaid between them, but words didn't seem necessary anymore. "Hey," Ethan said, his voice steady. "I just wanted to say goodbye before I leave." Sophie stepped forward, wrapping him in a tight hug. "I'm going to miss you so much, Ethan." He hugged her back, closing his eyes for a moment. "I'll miss you too. But this is what I need, to figure things out, to move on." Zach stepped closer, his usual bravado replaced with sincerity. "Ethan, I just want to say thank you for everything. And I'm sorry for how things started between us." Ethan nodded, offering a faint smile. "You've changed, Zach. For the better. Just take care of her, okay?" "I will," Zach promised, his voice firm. As the sun dipped lower, the three stood there, a quiet understanding settling between them. They were no longer just adversaries or rivals. They were something more now, a makeshift family bound by the chaos of their shared story. Years later, Sophie and Zach graduated from university. They had attended the same university, their relationship growing stronger with each passing year. They faced challenges, distance, arguments, and the pressure of their families, but they always found their way back to each other. Ethan, now a successful entrepreneur overseas, stayed in touch. His letters and calls were a constant reminder of the bond they shared, and while he had moved on, a part of him would always treasure the connection he had with Sophie. On a quiet spring day, Sophie and Zach returned to the garden where it had all begun. As Zach knelt before her, a small velvet box in hand, Sophie's heart swelled with emotion. "I was an idiot when I first met you," Zach began, his voice trembling slightly. "But you changed me, Sophie. You taught me how to love, how to be better. I can't imagine my life without you. Will you marry me?" Tears streaming down her face, Sophie nodded. "Yes. 1,000 times yes." As they embraced, the sun bathed them in its golden light, a symbol of new beginnings. Their story was far from over, but one thing was certain: they would face whatever came next together.